kick this off. So, good evening and greetings of the day to everyone who's joined in. And lots of familiar names are already here, but anybody else who's joining for the first time, so welcome to Get Set Up. We'll get into today is our first day of Retirement Readiness Week. So, welcome to the kickoff session of that, and have a very wonderful speaker today to talk about the topic of the day, which is lifestyle management in retirement and enhancing quality of life through that stage. Before I give you a background about the speaker itself, who actually I admire personally and have been inspired by her, just a few things on housekeeping first. So we'll have the session for about maybe half an hour to 40 minutes. Keep your questions coming in the chat. We'll take them as we go along or at the end, definitely. The second thing is most of you all will be on mute. So just keep that. Whenever if there's a question you want to speak about towards the end, you can also raise your hand in case you haven't put in the chat. And yeah, the session is going to be recorded and available on the Get Set Up platform at a later date as well. So a quick one of what's the class about, or what's the session about? So it's all about a holistic approach to retirement, which is covering physical and emotional well-being, intellectual and spiritual fulfillment, and planning and self-worth. And coming from somebody who's actually experienced all of it together is a wonderful way to start off the Retirement Readiness Week. For all the ones who are familiar about Get Set Up, welcome back for another interesting session. And the ones who are coming to Get Set Up for the first time, Get Set Up is on a mission to help those over the age of 55 to learn new skills, connect with others, and unlock new life experiences. Our goal is to reduce isolation, loneliness, and equip the community with tools and knowledge to age independently in place. Our community engages in classes both online as well as through offline activities like traveling together over longer as well as day trips. The most interesting part is that we have now become one of the largest aggregators of the uh, community of people above the age of 55, people who are learning and interacting in a peer-to-peer format. A brief introduction about the speaker, but before I go into the formal CV of hers and a profile of hers, let me actually thank Vishakha for coming over and speaking to us. She's somebody who I've been inspired with during my financial services career, and somebody who's become a good friend of Get Set Up. Vishaka is a chartered accountant and has more than 37 years of experience in the financial services. She very recently superannuated as the MD and CEO of India First Life Insurance, one of the fastest life insurance company, or one of the fastest growing life insurance companies, especially under her leadership. She has received numerous awards, including the 2024 Vanguard Market Development Award, which is one of the most prestigious awards that a professional can receive. She's a TED speaker as well as a regular contributor to international and national level forums. Very recently, she's been commenting about on the budgets as well as various insurance. She's passionate about insurance as a vital risk management tool, and more passionate about gender diversity and leadership development, mentoring the next generation of leaders. Thank you, Vishaka. We are privileged to host you at the kickoff session. You and I have spoken about this stage of life and somebody to kind of learn from. She's a professional coach also, by the way, as well, does coaching, especially now that she's superannuated from an insurance standpoint and business. She's taking on new vocations and actually going back to learning as well. Before we end this week, she'll be probably planning to fly out and take on a fellowship in Harvard. So congratulations on that and all the very best. Thank you, Vishaka. Over to you to guide us through this phase of life across what you like to talk about, and let us know and our members know how to deal with this stage of life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashwini. Thank you all for being here and for wanting to listen in. It is a topic that's very close to my heart because I have just superannuated and I've superannuated after a 37-year-long career, which has been extremely busy, which has kept me completely occupied. And one of my friends asked me recently, how are you coping? And I said, I'm trying to channelize my restless energy, because there's so much still there for you to do. The only thing I've got to say is on the basis of the feedback that I have been receiving, on the basis of how many people have been complimenting me on what they think I have really sorted my retirement out on. I think that's when I realized that not everybody actually seems to do it. And probably there was some good counsel that happened because of which I feel more sorted. Um, what is it that I would give as one overarching theme? I think the one overarching theme I'd give is know yourself. There are plenty of people who've told me, come on, you should just be able to, sit back, enjoy, all the hobbies that you never had time for, watch TV, you haven't caught up on any serials and so on, and just be. And I knew that I was not a person who could just be. I'm just too action oriented. My bias for action is very strong. If I have a casual discussion with my children and I'm jumping into, okay, how do we implement it? If a decision is made, it's about, okay, it's execution. So everybody may not be like that. That need not be the right thing to do. That may not work for everyone. But I know that I have a bias for action and I need to see things. I need to do things. I can't just be. I need to do. So I'm a doer, not a beer. I'm not saying that's the right thing. I'm not saying one is better than the other. All that I'm saying is it's good for us to know who we are. What kind of a personality is it that we have? And having known that personality, that I know I'm a doer, I said, okay, what am I going to do? I can't. People said you will get independent directorship, you will get speaking opportunities. And I said, I can't wait for people to come and give me something to do. I need to figure out what is it I'm going to be doing, at least 50% of my time, and then maybe the remaining 50% take on assignments if they come to me. But I don't want to be dependent on people coming up, otherwise, that could lead to a lot of frustration, which is the trigger for my picking up a course, the one that you just mentioned, Ashwini, and saying that, okay, I'm going to go and study because I need something to do. So I retired on 30th of June. I went off for a week-long Vedanta course, Vedanta retreat at the Vedanta Academy, and now been busy planning. Okay, साड़ी कहाँ रखना है, blouses क्या करना है, कपड़े क्या करना है. I'm so busy planning move to Harvard that I've had no time to think about the fact that I don't have meetings. I don't have any phone calls. I don't have a board meeting to attend. I don't have any directors to manage. I don't have teams to manage. I don't have any of the things that I used to do for me to do. I didn't allow myself time to really think of that. There's a school of thought which says, was that right? Should you really have made time for yourself? And I think there are different ways of dealing with emotions. Some emotions need to be thought through and sorted. Some emotions just have to be experienced and run through. It is very natural that after you live a 37 years work life, wherein the last 10 years have been almost 14 hours a day because children have also grown up and gone away, and all that you have is work and a partnership at home, maybe. Um, it is natural to feel a vacuum. There's no point in trying to sit down and analyze the emotions of feeling lonely. It is very natural. So I would not question feelings which are natural. If you've lost someone and you're feeling sad, I think it's pointless to ask somebody, Are, why are you feeling sad? It is natural for a person to feel sad. Don't dig into it and don't try and question or validate or justify an emotion. Some emotions have just got to be acknowledged and said, ये तो होगा ही. अब करना क्या है? And I think that's how I was looking at it. I said, I knew I will feel uh, insignificant. I knew I will feel irrelevant. I knew I will feel like I'm not making any contribution. And therefore, I said, okay, how am I going to make myself feel significant, feel relevant? How am I going to keep myself busy so that these negative emotions are not all the time playing on my mind? So that's about the first part. It is knowing yourself, know what is it that you're going to face, and thereby try and structure something to deal with who you are. It's very easy. It's easily said than done. I know I have been on this journey for almost past 10, 15 years of knowing myself, which is why today I'm able to turn around and say I know. But if everyone is not on that journey because we've been too busy, caught up in just living the daily life, in just getting things done, I will offer a structure on how to think about what to do post retirement. And if I had to think about a structure, I would think of a structure in the form of the Maslow's law of hierarchy, right? When you look at the Maslow's law of hierarchy, it talks about physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual needs. We could think about our life post retirement in those four layers. So, when we start thinking in the first layer of physical, so when you say physical, it's wealth and health. It's as simple as that. So, what are you going to do about your health? What are you going to do about your wealth? They're both equally important, they're both equally significant. So, when you think about, and for both of it, I think the underlying theme is very, very, very clear. It is discipline. You have to figure out a routine that will work for you. People talk so much about meditation, and I know several people for whom meditation doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Meditation gets them go even more hyper because just sitting there doing nothing can be quite irritating. There are some for whom it works brilliantly. There are people who thrive on yoga. There are people who thrive on running. Ashwini, one of them. There are people who thrive on swimming. There are people who just want to walk. And they say, don't make me walk 10 kilometers per hour or 7 kilometers per hour, but I will walk 1 hour regularly every day at this pace and I'll keep raising the bar. Whatever works for you, it is very, very, very important that you find what works for you. And once you find what works for you, stick to it and then keep raising the bar daily. We may not have any external goals post retirement. There's no board telling me this is the ROI we want or these are the targets. There's no me negotiating with my team, no negotiating with my board on what is it that we want to do. So what is the target that you'll set for yourself? And I think at this stage of life, the most beautiful target that we can set for ourselves is, can we be a better version of ourselves every single day? Can I be a better person today than yesterday? Can more people want to spend time with me today than yesterday just because I am bringing out a nicer human being within me? That I am being more positive. I am actually discovering the real self. I'm a little bit of a follower of Vedanta, and I've been a little bit into the Gita, and I've been a little bit into self introspection. And I think the universal aspect that everybody talks about, that there is a soul, there is an Atma, which is the same as God, and our entire purpose of life is actually to realize that self within. Sounds very, very difficult, and it is. It is extremely difficult. So I have found a simpler way is to just say, can I be a better human being? Just be a nicer human being. I don't think it's too complicated to define what is nice, right? Defining what is nice is not be irritable, not be angry, not be jealous. These are simple things. So pick one thing. What did I pick for myself? I picked for myself something called operate out of love, not fear. And I said, every single day, can I decide whether I'm operating from a space of love and not fear? Am I operate when I give in to even something as simple as my maid's tantrum? Am I doing it out of fear that she will leave and go away and I will not have a maid tomorrow? Or am I doing it out of a sense of love where I understand that she's probably been high strung. She's had too much work in the three other houses, and so she is a little upset today. Where am I coming from? And can I every single day try to come from a space of love and not fear? That's one way I'm looking at it. So to get back to the Maslow, so that's where I was talking about the physical, right? The physical, and physical automatically means your mind and body. So for body, you have your exercise. For mind, you have a goal, and the goal can be I gave an example of a goal. You can decide a goal for yourself as to what you think works for you. But that goal that you've set, it's not somebody else's set for you. So you can, you can be loving and kind towards it. I'll just say one more thing in terms of the physical and mental is also self-sufficiency. Take charge. Take charge of your own emotions, your own health. Don't hold anybody else responsible for it. You have to take responsibility for it. And the moment you take responsibility for your own health and wealth and well being, then it's so simple. You adjust, you get your own targets, you set your own pace, you figure out what you want to do. And the one marathon I got and the beautiful book Ashwini gave me, Born to Run, which changed my life at least, was about exactly that. In a marathon, people run at their own speeds. They choose their own lane and they just run. They don't allow, they don't, there's no competition. Everybody finishes at their own time, at their own pace. At least that's my understanding of the marathon, Ashwini.
Yes,
So, so I say take responsibility. That's what I'd like to say. And the moment you take responsibility, you also decide how you want to treat yourself. And I have taken a vow that I will treat myself with love, with respect, and with a lot of kindness. I will respect myself, whether I can do something or I can't do something. I will love myself with all my good and bad, and keep trying to be better than yesterday. And I will treat myself kindly. I think that's the moment you take responsibility, you also decide how you treat yourself. When it comes to financial is critical to have a budget. Absolutely critical. It is very important to know that your pool of money is finite. You might pick up gigs, we might get some add-ons, but if we are planning for retirement post receiving a sum of money, take that money as finite and say, okay, how am I going to make this money last? If it means not buying gifts for your children and grandchildren, don't buy. You would rather be self-sufficient with your money than splurge and then expect them to look after you. You will hear comments like, oh, she took my money and bought me a gift. What's the big deal? You don't want that. You don't want that. You'd rather give gifts which you can do out of love, out of your time, out of your kindness, out of the person that you are, and not necessarily material if your money can't make it work. If you are lucky enough to have lots of money, then please go do whatever you want to. But I would say there is nothing called infinite money. I have lived life and I've seen people, and I will say fools and their money are very soon parted is a real issue. People who take money for granted tend to lose money very quickly. I would say be disciplined with it, be stingy with it. It's always better to live within your means. It's always better to control your desires to match your money, and don't expect it. Your lifestyle may undergo a change, so be it. And if you've been lucky enough to be a person who's got a lot more money, then live it. Don't think about saving it and giving it on to your grandchildren. You might as well enjoy it. You've earned, you've worked hard for it, do it as long as that's working for your mental and emotional well-being. Don't do things out of fear. Don't do things out of guilt. Don't do things out of a sense of pressure. I think this is the stage where we can be true to ourselves, and we should be true to ourselves. Um, the emotional needs, once we've taken care of the physical, I've covered the emotional as part of the physical, so I'll not elaborate a point there too much. Intellectual, I think, Get Set Up has formed this brilliant platform where you can actually come exchange ideas, exchange views, get your intellectual stimulation. I think I've seen some of the courses that are being offered, get into the study groups to learn something new. Today, learning is not expensive. Today, learning, all that it takes is your desire. I was asked this question, why are you going to Harvard at 60? What's wrong with you? Are you going to get a better job? And I'm like, I don't think so. They said, oh, you're spending some of your retirement money. Actually, you're going and paying Harvard money. I said, guys, however you guys want to look at it, you please look at it. I know that I've never gone abroad and studied. I have never been exposed to cross cultural people in a room. Yes, Indians are pretty diverse. I can sit in a room full of Bengalis and Tamilians and Gults and Maharashtrians and Gujaratis and Punjabis and feel a whole cross-cultural. Yes, that is diversity at a different level. But sitting at an international platform, looking at Mexicans and Chinese and Americans and Latin Americans and having an entire and the Britishers and Europeans, why not? Why not? It's just exposure, and there is no age bar to learning and growth and expanding. The day we stop learning, I think, is the day we are voluntarily committing suicide. I think that's the way I feel about it. So learning has no end. Learning does not need money. You can learn today on so many different platforms and so many different ways. I would do that. And then spiritual, yes, I think we the restlessness that is there in each one of us uh, is the self or the soul waiting to be discovered. I think when we have done with our duties, and I quite like the way our Vedas talk about it as samsaram. Once you're done with the samsaric duties, and which is why they even talk about the post 60 as a different life stage, right? So Vanaspat ashram. So that's a life stage. I would say that we should all very gracefully move into that life stage. I tell my children that I am a safety net. I am not getting involved with you. You guys go be a trapeze artist. You please do whatever you want to. I'm here. If you want my advice, come take it. If you don't want my advice, I'm just going to listen to you. It's not easy at all. Okay, I've said this to you. I don't manage to implement it. But that's okay. I know that that's what I want to do. I will reach there because every single time I don't do it, I'll tell myself, okay, Vishaka, yet again you opened your mouth and gave your advice. You were supposed to listen, not talk. And I will climb back onto my resolve. I will fall off, I will climb back again. I'm going to be kind to myself. It's not easy. I've been working for 37 years where I've been giving instructions, where I've been giving stuff. So I obviously it's not going to be easy for me to just overnight shift the role. But it's critical, it's important because I remember when I was 30, 31, I don't think I wanted to listen to my parents. So I should not really feel bad about it at all. In fact, I would encourage my kids to start thinking on their own. So I think that's about how I would like to talk. I mean, I could talk nonstop. I have, I have for a living filled in a lot of time and space with words. But I will take a pause for now for some questions, or then we could talk about some more topics.
No, thanks a lot, Vishaka, for this so far. And I actually, what you just said is while the questions start coming in and people have already started commenting on that, one of the interesting things that you said was, or you summarized in a way, was saying that know yourself. I think one of that's at least in my view as well is one of the most important things, that what are you as a person? Because during our so-called corporate life, or whatever the career, the peak career that we are all before one plus the hits in, is that we are actually leading it as a job. We got to do something more to earn that living, and in the daily rut of responsibilities of both the family, the children, the parents, and the organization, all of that, a lot of it gets missed to understand ourselves. And suddenly this vacuum gets there, because we've not yet analyzed that who are we and what are we as an individual, and then what are our strengths and likings and disliking that we would want to actually fill that time with. You put that very interestingly, is that set out a routine for yourself, because you've been, as humans, we're used to a routine. Means whether you go back to the uh, cave days of early development, you used to get hunting and farming to start off with the day, and it got filled. Corporate careers are like that, and so should be this part, that you fill your day with a certain routine. The routine can be only up to afternoon, or only up to a certain point. That's okay. The rest of it cannot be other things that you fill it with within what you like, what you enjoy, exercise, you said, emotional well-being, you said. I think the other thing that you interestingly, which very strongly resonates is every action, is it out of love, fear, or so that you can actually even analyze, because this stage brings a mix of emotions that suddenly hit you. An
Yeah.
interesting part that you said is that that one has no control on the environment around, whether what people will say, what children will say, or what the weather is going to be out today, anything for that matter, the entire external. And it's been very well crafted in scriptures also. But what is in control is our reaction to that environment, our reaction to what people will say, or our reaction to them. That's what is in our control, and that's how you kind of deal with it, is from the emotional aspect and the physical and aspect. What I like about the other part about is being financially disciplined and prudent about it. I think you're right. As longevity hits us, which we are all seeing around the world, people are going to live longer. Inflation is going to be there. How do you ensure that you are? So it starts with prudence first on the expense, then the rest of it is more about planning, etc., which is second stage. But start with prudence and being a little harsh on expenses. So you to start with, and harsh need not be very harsh, but just enough to kind of rethink and rebalance what your needs are at this stage of life. A lot of responsibilities are over. Education for kids are over. Family responsibility largely over. But then you still need to kind of think about health, which can be a big
Yeah.
inflation. And you coming from an insurance business, you know that how these things need to be managed as well. So I think you've summed it pretty well. And the one of the probably the last in my notes that I wrote is the concept of lifelong learning. Be a learner always, be curious, and that's something is resonates with all of us in our organization. Get set up, came into being with that whole concept of lifelong learning. If you're on that path, where you can't get bored or sucked into what do I do? How do I fill my time? Just be curious enough. And for that, you need to know yourself right at the beginning. So you summarized it pretty well how to deal with this stage of life. Maybe we can just look at any questions which come so far. But I wanted to kind of just summarize whatever said that. I think probably the last question that I can see to if I go backwards before is is the comment about the Maslow's bringing out all of it very well, which is filling in your needs, and that's one of the ways to kind of doing that. How do you maybe I can probably kick this off with a question is that you see leadership role reaching up to that stage, but all through you grew in your career always through that transition, and then super animating at this level. How do you kind of deal with the emotional well-being of feeling that no longer do you have anybody taking your instructions? You don't describe it very as in one does not describe it that very well, but it does cross your mind, that, or when you wake up that morning, that suddenly that, oh, I have no buddy to say, get me, the simple thing would be, get me my cup of coffee to your assistant. Okay. You got to do it yourself by now, or some way different. How do you deal with that mix of, oh, what do I do? Or how do you deal with that?
Thanks so much for that, Destiny. I think, and I'm not trying to be gender biased here, but women find it a little easier because, at the end of the day, when you come back home, and the maid doesn't turn up, you still pick up the jhadu. You still go to the kitchen and you still make the tea for everybody else. Your in-laws want food, the maid hasn't turned up. You're the one who's going in and doing it. So that role of being a homemaker never really goes away. Yeah, because the substitute for the maid is you. That's why we get so dependent on our maids. I think it's less about the, the physical aspect. I think it's a lot more to do with. I'll tell you where I was stuck so badly. I had to take a printout and send a courier. Okay, I'm like, where am I going to take a printout from? I don't have a printer here. And the wealth manager said, ma'am, printout leke bhej dena. And I'm like, guys, listen. You need to figure out how you want to do a printout, send it to me for my signature and pick it up back. They're not going to do that. So today you take your, I mean, they will if based on at what level you are in your wealth management. But for most of us, something like I need to send something to Ahmedabad. I am figuring out where do I find a courier who will come home and take the courier back. And I'm trying not to get upset about it. I'm trying not to pick up the phone and ask my office and say, Maria, can you please send someone to take this? Okay. I think those are the places where you start missing the infrastructure support that you had to function. Um, I, the second thing that you miss is that if you didn't like something about the office, and all that you had to do was say, this is not okay, guys, things would move. You can say this is not okay. Nobody is going to bother about you today. The society manager is not going to give a damn about what you're saying about it. So I think it's the absence of power. It hits you really hard that you really have no power, which is why I think I said, let me redirect that power to myself. And I said, let me try and see if I can listen to me. Will my emotions listen to my intelligence? Can I love without expectations? There's a beautiful statement I heard about what is love, and it says, all of us think we love, actually, we're all attached. It says, love plus selfishness is attachment. So, if you really love someone, you have no expectations. And just thinking about that concept, okay, and challenging myself to a better ideal, to a higher ideal, I've started redirecting that power over myself. I think that's what I'm trying to do, Ashwini, is move internal, try to grow internally, because externally is done, right? 60 pe jitna karna tha kar liya. The world doesn't want you to grow anymore externally. So now this is the perfect opportunity. We're going to live under 30 years, at least 20 minimum, or maybe 10. What are you going to do in next 10, 20, 30 years? As you grow older, less and less people will listen to you. Less and less is your circle of influence. But if you can redirect that to within you, can I make my emotions listen to me? Can I make my body listen to me? Can my intellect and my conscience overrule my body and mind? So I think that's where I'm playing with it. I'm enjoying that play of power that's happening internally.
No, that is quite interesting. I'll take one question, but on what which has come in the chat. But I'll come back to about the gender part that you mentioned, and there is enough research available, and I'll comment on that in a bit. But somebody's asked a question about what is the role of pursuing a passion. How do you see a passion's role in this stage?
I would put it down to learning. I mean, at the end of the day, what is passion, right? Passion is about wanting to learn something really. I started music classes. I've gone back to music classes. I learned from a 72-year-old teacher. And we both have fun. We joke. She tells me, you must give a kacheri. And I'll be like, yeah, sure, ma'am. We'll do a kacheri also.
So picking up a passion or just being curious to learn, how does it deal with in involving this conundrum of emotions at this stage, and how do you see that? Is that because it fills time, or is it because it emotionally is gratifying and is interesting enough for you to kind of put all your energies that you just mentioned about energies? Which part is more important in dealing with or finding that passion that will drive you?
Oh, I think you have the luxury of trying out everything and see what speaks to you. For instance, I've tried walking, I've tried running, I've tried swimming, I've tried learning music, I've tried to learn to paint. Of all of this, I realized walking and singing, when you're doing that activity, there are no negative emotions. I think knowing yourself, and we have a Hindi word or a Sanskrit word called vasanas, right? What is it? It's ultimately your nature. Who are you by nature? And how can you be a better person? So whichever activity that you're doing, which brings out the better version of yourself, automatically is your passion and automatically will make you feel better. It will satisfy you across levels. I think it satisfies you across your physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual level. And you will know it. You will know it when you do it.
Yeah, another class we discussed this is about it creates the right kind of hormones, the endorphins, the oxytocins, and the dopamine along with that. So whether it's a physical activity or any learning activity, it creates the right kind of hormones to just and there's enough of science and research uh, around that. What I wanted to get back on the gender part of it is and we will flip this to another question which is there over here is about the part that there is social connections, and we've spoken offline a few times. Social connections. You also just now mentioned about it that, and you mentioned about the fact that women by nature kind of get consumed, and you can feel that. What would you say about the men? And we've seen that, not just seen, it's been presented in various reports, even by WHO, that men have a tendency to expire much earlier. The average life expectancy of a man is lesser than a woman. What kind of reasons could you ascribe for to be able to counter that, or to be able to kind of deal with it, especially this stage? I mean, we've spoken about the fact that women probably get more socially active and busy because of the natural caretaker role that gets passed on very quickly, or what are the other things that you notice, and especially in your own personal experiences?
Okay, this is going to sound very controversial and probably we'll have a flood of messages. But I think, and I will restrict my comments to based on my experience. I'm a South Indian married to a North Indian, and I therefore can say that I have seen across men across South India and across North India. Whatever I have seen, men are very used to being catered to. Men not only have power outside the house, they also have power inside the house as long as they're earning. When they bring the money, they control how that money is spent. When a woman brings the money, she doesn't necessarily control how it is spent. She probably pulls it into the family. She probably spends it again on the home, on the children, on improving the overall lifestyle. So there's a lot of identification that I see of most of us, and especially men, to the amount of money that they earn and the fact that they're earning contributing members. When that doesn't happen and they grow older and they can't wield authority, if there are people who have typically functioned on authority, I think they just don't know what's hitting them because they lose authority everywhere. They don't know what to do at home because there is a set routine at home which is going on without them. I mean, I really feel terrible when I see retired men who don't know what to do. And I think some of them, uh, have the maturity to realize that there is a routine which has been running at home without them and that will continue to run. How can they enable it? And I think if men can move from taking to giving, if they can move to the pleasure of doing and not getting done, it is a whole different pleasure. I know they would have experienced it. I know a lot of people will say, "Hum karte hai, we do this, we do this, we do this." And I will just say that there is a whole lot of difference between doing something when you're told to do it versus taking ownership for the end to end. If you take ownership and say, okay, you move out, I will do the entire lunch today. Okay. You have something to fulfill your mind, everything starting from scratch or anything, right? I think India spoils its men. Indian women spoil their men. Indian companies spoil their men. I think we set them up. We set them up. So when they retire, they're struggling to know what to do.
No, you while skirting it, but taking on the controversy head on, I think it's not just India. It's because WHO has also put out that report, which actually, so men by nature, the socializing aspect just is one of the biggest features. Besides which, whatever you said so far is definitely true as well. It's also about how socially you remain active, and it tends to happen that because during your careers you were forced into socializing because you're at your work life, etc. Men tend to become less social post getting out of the workforce or doing the active office so-called social activity, and struggle to rebuild connections. So that's probably one another aspect besides the typical diversity issues that we are dealing with, and that's the reason that probably the longevity is very stark, and it's not a couple of years; it's a big gap between the average lifespan of men versus women. So switching gears to a bit, and you did touch upon finance as well in this part also. How does one approach? And you said about being very, very prudent, disciplined, and actually being a little harsh on yourself to start off with, including not giving gifts to grandchildren and children. Is how do you approach the entire financial planning for this stage? Or what advice will you give others? Being a career financial services individual yourself, how you seen people make mistakes and correct themselves if they have taken course corrections? How do you advise somebody?
Yeah. So I'm gonna refer to a dear friend and a famous author, Monica Helland. And I'm gonna say, I don't think I can give advice better than what she has put in her books. I would specifically recommend two books of Let's Talk Money and Let's Talk Legacy, when she talks about how to manage your money, how to make it work for you, what are the various forms of money. But the way I would look at it, Ashwini, is of course, that asset allocation, as people talk, as you grow older and older, preservation of capital is more important than growth. Don't worry if you've not, earned that 30% in the stock market, because preserving it and earning 7% is better. The slow and steady wins the race completely applies. Stay focused on the fact that preservation of capital has got to be the highest priority, and not necessarily maximizing returns, because returns come uh, um, with losses, right? I mean, the risk return trade-off is always there. The higher the returns, the higher the risk. So you need to mentally accept that it is okay. You may not make the highest returns because your objective is not that. Your objective is to make sure that you have capital protection and moderate returns. Enough returns for you to live off it for the rest of your life. I would strongly advocate annuities for people who do not have enough financial knowledge to be able to manage their own money. I think annuities is where the insurance companies take over the burden. I mean, I'm not somebody who's talking without practicing it. I have taken my entire PF money and I'm buying an annuity from that PF money, so that there is a certain amount of definite credit coming into my account. Because I knew, for me, one of my biggest mental trigger was nothing hitting my account end of the month. It was such a strong trigger. I knew it will be a very strong trigger that kuch paisa nahi aaya. I knew it will be. So I just took my entire PF and I said, I'm buying an annuity. I will get a credit at the end of the month. So that's something that I did personally, and therefore I would recommend that very strongly. The rest of it you've got to play. It's okay if one part of it is earning only a 7% return, it's fine. Why would I recommend annuity? I do think we tend to make emotional decisions as we grow older. We can try our level best not to, and we need to tell ourselves that 100 times, that money cannot be given emotionally. Please place your financial needs above everybody else's financial needs. Being physically and emotionally dependent is bad enough. being financially dependent is absolutely not okay.
Fair point. I think, and for all our guests today, we at Get Set Up, and Vishaka, you're aware of that. We deep dive into into retirement planning, and including financial planning in terms of asset allocation strategies and understanding some of it. So that we deep dive. But since you mentioned, I wanted to be take your views as well. Having been a professional who's now dealing with this phase of life. I like the part that you said about having milestones that you mentioned, that have goals, etc., and try and achieve that. So, if you could share, besides the immediate goal that you're heading off to take on a new learning, what are the other smaller goals that you've kept yourself, set yourself for?
So, one is I've got two, three things that I've set myself. One is, of course, this. The other is coaching. I am setting up a website with offering my services as an executive coach. Um, I would I intend to go to colleges and schools and talk to girls who who don't have the exposure necessarily, and provide them with confidence, provide them with inspiration. If we can make a difference, then it is. At this stage of life, Ashwini, I'm not focusing on what difference I'm making, how many people are listening to me. I'm focusing on what is the best I can do. If it lands with anybody, it does. If it doesn't land with anybody, I will try to do better next time. What more can I do? What better can I do? And I'm not, and that's what I intend to do. I'm also contributing to an organization which sponsors children across age groups to complete their education when they're doing well by instituting a scholarship. So, yeah, and I think those are the two, three things I intend to do.
You've covered volunteering. You've covered your passion to which is the aspect of mentoring and coaching, and more importantly, you covered the part that you're taking active interest in getting to colleges where women, especially giving them that inspiration to actually be a very, very active part of the workforce. One thing in terms of especially, and we are a prime example of that. What you're doing right now is how do you intend to how do you see technology playing a role in people's lives at this stage, and it's all becoming pretty much post 2020 what we all been dealing with. How do you see that?
I'm just going to respond to the question that I see first, which is Monica Helan, the author of the books. So I'm just posting that. How do I see that? Ashwini, I think it needs to be balanced. Okay. I mean, technology has its perils, and the number of scam calls that you're getting is not funny. The number of people trying to take advantage of you. I mean, even today, I got your previous LIC policy is lapsing kind of a call, and I'm like, guys, please, मेरे साथ तो मत करो. But it is so tough. It is so tough. And everything is moved online. Trying to get my 82-year-old mother she had physical shares, moving those physical shares to DMAT, now opening a trading account so that she can sell them. Just like, will you all please do it when I'm still alive? Just sell it off. She just wants to dispose it all off. And maybe that's not a bad idea. Based on, your own capacity. If you don't want anything more than an FD, please go to the nearest public sector bank and open the FD and look after it. Technology has to be used in a balanced way. Don't believe everything that you see online. Use technology for learning, for Zoom classes, from authorized sources, from known resources. I would say be aware of the fraudulent activities of technology. So it's very easy to get fooled. So I would say technology, boon and a bane. Like with everything in life, you have to do a balanced version of it.
Yeah, thanks for that. Actually, sorry, did I hear a question? Just raise your hands. We can just take that up. Sorry, if there's a question, Abhijit, can you take that? If there is one, I can't see this entire screen. Okay. Another one is about the fact that a lot of us would still want to be in active some kind of work, may not be having a immediate passion, or may not have discovered an immediate passion towards learning, may not have still discovered, but still want to continue to form some kind of a part-time work or part-time. How does one go around searching for that? In your you said last 10 to 15 years you've been thinking about it, so you are planning for it. How does one go about searching for so-called work that you are good at, or you want to kind of offer your services in a commercial way? You've taken up coaching in a commercial way, but any other thoughts and ideas for people to think about?
I think it would depend completely on what the individual skill sets are and what is it that they can offer. What positions do you want to take up and what you can do. But Ashwini, what I have seen is the people who are willing to take on seniors are invariably more of charitable organizations. I think your mainstream commercial organizations do not want you. Making that shift from being a full-time employee to being an advisor, it is a mental shift. If you can make it, then I think a lot of people are benefiting. I see a lot of platforms these days. In fact, that's where probably your earlier question comes into play. I see a lot of platforms where you can do freelance jobs, where you can offer your services and you get assignments or not. I think, but the mindset shift of being an advisor and not necessarily or a consultant who will not enjoy the same levels of authority is very important for us to understand. And it doesn't have to be a senior position. I mean, even if someone at a VP level or at a senior manager level retired, okay, even at a senior manager level, that person probably had some financial authority, some approval, 4 people reporting into him. Okay, when he goes back to that same company as a consultant, he'll probably have nothing. Those 4 people could be the ones giving him or her jobs to do.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to make that mental shift and move. It has to be that ability to just cut it off and move to a new role. I can't overemphasize the need and the ability to move to new roles. I think somebody in the chat actually said, yes, it's difficult. But I would think about it like supposing you went to a wedding and then you went to a funeral, right? We do that all the time, right? I mean, when you have such a huge circle of friends, there'll be somewhere you would have gone for a wedding, you'll come back, you'll change, you will wear a white dress and go to a funeral. You don't go to the funeral with the same mindset that you went to the wedding. You don't allow the funeral to impact your wedding. You participate in both. Can you look at your life like that? That was a particular phase. This is a particular phase. Just look at the situation as is without taking things personally. It is not about you. It is natural. It's normal.
Actually, that simile you just gave is other is very apt. Actually, you shift your mind in that, and that's important, because it could be the same consulting work in the same organization, but you are no longer yielding any authority. Your advice may be actually binned and kept on the side, which you'll feel bad about, but you should not, because that's where you should not, because your role has shifted, your mindset should change, and therefore emotionally dealing with it, which is the first thing that you brought about in your master's theory, right? The emotional part of it. You get prepared for it right at the beginning to deal with emotions. We're nearing the last couple of minutes. If there are questions, please post it. As I said in the beginning, that Get Setup's app can be downloaded. If people who don't have it, sessions are available over there as well. And Vishaka's conversations is going to be put up there as well. And so are many other, both from a physical well-being perspective that she covered, from mental well-being perspective that she covered, socializing and financial planning. All of them are there on the app as well. Many such conversations, many articles out there. So please go and use that. As we kick off this retirement readiness week, we had the privilege of Vishakha being with us. Vishakha, we wish you all the very best in the next stage of life. You're being asked a question. Actually, you already answered that social impact fellowship program. So we know now that we know what you're going to do, and in a year's time be back and make a lot of impact back in the economy as well. We know that you are available for both for Get Set Up as well as anybody who's looking for being coached. And once again, congratulations and wish you all the very best, Vichaka. Thank you very much to come on the platform, and we look forward to our continued engagement.
Thank you, Ashwini. It was an absolute pleasure. Sometimes when you talk, you sort out your own thoughts. So this was a brilliant opportunity for me to sort out my own ideas too. Thank you for facilitating a wonderful conversation. Happy to be here.
Thank you all whoever joined in. We are going to sign off just a minute earlier. So maybe if there is none, then we just sign off the minute earlier, which is perfectly fine. Give back a minute to everyone of their lives and go and follow your passions and spend time, especially the ones who are living in Mumbai, spend time in the rainy season outside. Enjoy the rain. Thank you. Thank you once again. Have a good
Bye.
evening. Bye.